The gang reach Hutbur Port, where they can get a boat back to the mainland. Gary's already made his way out, deciding to head to Cinnabar rather than go to Celadon, where Ash plans to have his next gym battle. The gang has time to kill as their boat won't show till that night. Ash is bored out of his mind as Giselle and Brock check out the local produce. This was mind-numbing. Pikachu likewise felt the same. Ash felt his mind wander in his boredom. He had yet to inform Brock and Giselle about Ninetales. He wasn't trying to hide anything, but well, he needed to think on it. Ninetales felt a bit different than his other Pokemon. Everyone had wanted to go with him. Ninetales was caught in the heat of the moment. He would have forgotten about it if Tangela didn't remind him. He wasn't exactly sure of his game plan here. He and Pikachu shot ideas back and forth while they waited. Did they try food? Bribery? Maybe it liked to fight. It was hard to get a read on a Pokemon that attacked him like that. He didn't even know why. Ash could release it and ask, but he wasn't exactly ready for that yet. He'd probably wait till they were off the island at least. And he had Brock and Giselle there. And maybe Onix, Geodude, and Sandshrew acting as shields. Hey, his team was highly flammable. It's not his fault his only true counter to Ninetales was a Psyduck-shaped anchor. Ash's train of thought is stopped as a buzzing sound meets his ears. The once peaceful market was suddenly swarmed by beedrill. It was all Blur Ash and Pikachu as they flailed around the rapid insects. As soon as it started, it stopped. The fresh food that had permeated the market was pilfered and gone. Ash looked bewildered. He meets up with Brock and Giselle and questions what the hell just happened. The shopkeep answers that this was a usual occurrence now. For the past 2 weeks, the beedrill have been coming into the city and stealing food. They've yet to figure out why. Giselle asked if the League has done anything about it. This was kinda in their territory. Unfortunately, they were far out enough it was hard to make contact with the mainland. The few ace trainers stationed here were stretched throughout all of Porta Vista. Usually they only dealt with the wild Pokemon when they got rowdy. This was new and unusual though. This wasn't your typical rowdiness. Ash perks up. Wild Pokemon getting rowdy. The shopkeeper nods. The wilds of Porta Vista were very underdeveloped. They've managed to stake out territory like Acapulco and Hutbur Port, but it was far too dangerous to venture out into the wilderness unless you were an experienced trainer. Ash asked if anyone attempted to catch the Pokemon that were causing trouble out there. Hypothetically, of course. Goodness no. They're far too feral for your average trainer. It'd take at least a seasoned veteran to keep one under their control. The Pokemon out there were just too wild for their own good. Giselle was just happy that she managed to avoid trouble like that. Gary got lucky. Ash laughed nervously. Yeah. Just Gary. They were all so lucky. Brock gets back to the matter at hand. Beedrill shouldn't need to take food. They usually relied on a honey-based diet in the wild. Something must be wrong. Giselle was all for helping, but this sounded way out of their capabilities. Ash notes the concerned look on Brock's face. With that, he declares his intent to check it out. If the Beedrill were causing trouble, then they should at least see if they can figure out why. Giselle shook her head at his over-enthusiastic statement, but Ash saw that Brock's shoulders sagged a bit in relief. Truthfully, Ash didn't want to help. He wanted to get the hell off this island. However, he knew Brock enough to see that the guy wanted to help. Brock was kind like that, and he owed the guy a lot. It was only fair. Giselle asked what they were gonna do. Ash saw the beedrill flying away in the distance. He thought fast and brought out his beedrill. Brock and Giselle were immediately on the uptake. Brock searched the ground and found a stray melon that was left over and handed it to Beedrill. Giselle grabbed a red scarf from her bag and tied it around Beedrill's neck. Ash told Beedrill the situation. He wanted him to blend in with the others and follow them back to their home base. Stay near the back so they can see him and follow. Once they get close to their nest, he can point them to somewhere close enough they won't get spotted. Beedrill nodded. Before he could fly off, Ash stopped him. For once, he looked serious. He says that the area around here is dangerous. He doesn't want him to go fight anyone unless Ash is there with him. They were a team, right? Beedrill almost wanted to protest, but met the look in Ash's eye. He nodded once more and the duo bumped hand and drill together. Beedrill took off, flying into the swarm unnoticed. Pikachu patted Ash, causing him to let out a breath he'd been holding. Right, they'll be fine. The trio followed the swarm to the edge of the wilderness before slowing their pace. The scarf helped them keep sight of the swarm even after they vanished into the trees. They were slow and methodical, just keeping up fast enough to keep the red in their vision. They didn't want to attract any more wild Pokemon. Eventually, they saw the red vanish and paused. Not too long later, it reappears and heads into a different direction. Beedrill stops, allowing them to finally catch up to him. Looks quite alarmed. Ash inquires what's wrong. Beedrill points past the plants. Outside their cover of foliage, they see a rather large tree with a hive built into it. However, sitting at the base was a ginormous Pokemon Ash had never seen before. What the hell is that? It's a Snorlax, Giselle breathed out. Said Snorlax sat beneath the hive like a king on his throne as the Beedrill placed the food before it. So that's why they're taking all the food. It's for Snorlax. Ash figured a Pokemon that big must eat a lot. Still, why were the Beedrill serving it? Beedrill pointed to something near Snorlax. In a makeshift cage of twisted wood was a sizable Beedrill. That's the queen, Giselle gasped. The Beedrill all work to provide for her as she creates the eggs for the hive. Snorlax captured her. Ash didn't like this. He didn't like it at all. He got the info they wanted, but now that he saw the situation, he couldn't just leave it alone. From the look Beedrill had, he couldn't either. Numbers-wise, the Beedrill had a big advantage on Snorlax. With their queen in harm's way, though, they couldn't do anything. That meant it was up to Ash and them. The trio got together and made a plan. Ash and Brock would be distractions, while Giselle went to go free the queen. Ash's team was fast and would easily be able to outpace Snorlax, while Onix would be their muscle. Giselle didn't like the danger of it all, but agreed. She told them to be careful and snuck around the edges. Brock and Ash nodded at each other. Without hesitation, both stepped out. Ash declared his challenge to Snorlax. Snorlax didn't even acknowledge them. That was until Onix appeared and sent a rock throw right into his face. Its eyes snapped open and it roared in anger at the boys. Tangela and Psyduck appeared by Ash's side, readying for battle. Well, Tangela ready for battle. Psyduck just kind of stared off into the middle distance. Ash really has to fix that. Onix roars back at Snorlax and lunges forward to clash with him. Brock tells Ash to hit and run around Onix while he holds back Snorlax. Ash was about to confirm when his eyes widened. He tackles Brock out of the way as Onix's unconscious body lands where they were just sitting. Both boys are in shock. Did it just take out their big gun? Okay, first plan out the window. Now we improvise. Ash snatched up Psyduck as the rest of the team engaged Snorlax. Tangela lashed out with Vine Whips that didn't seem to do much. Pikachu's Thunderbolts got it to stagger, but it wouldn't be enough to take it out in one blow. The one it was doing the most damage was Beedrill. Beedrill fought like a man possessed. He got in close and used Fury Attack to beat back Snorlax. Ash had never seen Beedrill fight so hard before. That's when he finally looked at the Beedrill watching around them. They were thin and malnourished looking. The stress of serving Snorlax and a lack of food for themselves had taken its toll. Even if they somehow got the Queen to safety, Ash doubted they'd be up for any sort of battle. That was why Beedrill fought so hard though. He couldn't let this stand. Ash couldn't either. From the corner of his eye, Ash saw Giselle close in on the Queen's cage. Sandshrew was quick to slice through the wood. However, upon the cage being cut, the Queen saw Sandshrew and Giselle let out a panicked cry, assuming the worst. That drew everyone's attention, including Snorlax. Snorlax's anger skyrocketed. His mouth opened and a glowing orange orb of energy formed. Brock yelled in alarm. That was Hyper Beam! He yells at Giselle to get out of there! Psyduck struggled out of Ash's arms and ran frantically around trying to find something to bash his head on. There wasn't enough time though. The beam was fired. Ash feels the world slow down. He can't do anything to stop this. Someone does though. Before it could connect, Beedrill appeared in front with a burst of speed. He crossed his fingers together and braced himself against the blast. Despite his gumption, Ash watched in distress as the Hyper Beam ate away at Beedrill. The red scarf Giselle had tied around him was almost completely shredded in the blast. Still, Beedrill held strong. That's when something amazing happened. Beedrill's stingers began to glow with power, growing stronger as Beedrill took the hit. Beedrill was using Bide, Brock realized. Snorlax's Hyper Beam eventually peered it out, leaving Beedrill still standing. Snorlax has to recharge after Hyper Beam, Giselle calls out. Now's your chance! Ash didn't know what Beedrill had done, but he knew they had to act. He yells to Beedrill to hit Snorlax with everything he's got. Beedrill raised his stingers together, forming one massive stinger. He flew forward to Snorlax, spiraling in the air to gain even greater speed and power. Snorlax then stopped the blow and took it head on. An explosion occurred, lighting up the clearing. When it all faded, Beedrill stood atop Snorlax's unconscious form, one stinger raised to the sky, even as the rest of his body staggered. Everyone was in disbelief before the Beedrills buzzed with cries of joy. Ash soon joined them, yelling his own cheers at Beedrill's tenacity. The Queen, finally free, flew to Beedrill. Beedrill looked up to her with a sort of respect. Even beaten half to hell, he had a strength that wouldn't falter. They communicated something before she raised the stinger and knighted him on one shoulder and then the other. Before them all, the Beedrill of the hive knelt to the Queen and Ash's Beedrill. Beedrill looked taken aback by it all, as did Ash. Despite the weirdness of it all, Ash was just thankful it was over. Now that Beedrill had beaten Snorlax, the Beedrill could stop pilfering the town. Another day saved thanks to Ash Ketchum and friends. The sun was setting, meaning their boat was going to be out here soon. They had to get back to the city or else they'd miss it. He calls out to Beedrill to tell him to come on. He takes a few steps, but doesn't hear the familiar buzz he'd grown accustomed to. Looking back, he saw Beedrill wasn't looking at him. His gaze went around to all the weakened hive that knelt before him, then to his feet where Snorlax lay still. Beedrill? Ash felt his heart sink. Beedrill finally met his eyes. They were sad. A conversation took place without a single word being said. Ash felt Ninetales' Pokeball on his belt. You know how dangerous the Pokemon here were? Despite his indifference at the time, Gary could have died if Psyduck didn't get a headache. Ninetales almost did take out him and Tangela, but Onix popped up just in time. Porta Vista was dangerous. Snorlax might be defeated now, but who's to say it doesn't just come back when it's better and do the same thing again? The Beedrill here weren't strong enough to take it down. They were a force as a unit, but they didn't have the fighting spirit to go to their limits and then beyond to get the victory. They were wild, and in the wild, if you reached your limit, that meant you were just easy picking for the Pokemon next door. The Hive needed a protector. The Queen needed a knight. They needed Beedrill. Ash held back the emotions that threatened to spill forth. He approached Beedrill, team in tow. Unlike him, they had understood what was being said beforehand. Tangela's eyes were welling with tears, while Pichu looked sad. Psyduck looked on in confusion. They need you, Ash says. Beedrill nodded. He took a shaky breath and told Beedrill it was okay. This place needed someone strong to fend off the other Pokemon. This was something Beedrill felt he needed to do. He raised a stinger, which Ash clasped his hand against. Beedrill buzzed and addressed the rest of the team. Pichu tapped his tail to his stinger, while Tangela wrapped him up in a hug. Beedrill looked at Psyduck, but he appeared just as confused as usual. Ash told the rest of his team they had to get back to the city. They turned and walked back to where Celadon, Brock, and Giselle stood. Beedrill buzzed something that got Psyduck to stop and turn back. For once, his eyes weren't the usual dopey look. They had an air of clarity. Beedrill raised his stinger and pointed to Psyduck and buzzed to him. Ash didn't know what he said, but Psyduck definitely did from the shocked face he made. As the group left, both Beedrill and Ash kept their resolve. They each only let a single tear roll down their faces as their journeys diverted. Giselle and Brock weren't sure what to do. They were finally in Celadon, but the mood was dull. Usually Ash would be bouncing off the walls ready to obtain his next badge. However, ever since they departed Porta Vista, he'd been silent. His team had likewise been down. The reason was obvious. Beedrill's absence was felt throughout the entire gang. It was like their fighting spirit had evaporated. Now, despite being at the next gym, Ash didn't even feel like battling it. He gave half-hearted excuses on why he'd wait. They didn't call him out on it. He needed time. The duo were waiting in the lobby for Ash to come down. He'd slept in that morning. He'd done that for the last few days. Giselle couldn't figure out why he released beedrill like that. She understood from a logical perspective why it was good, but still, Ash wasn't the type to do things through logic. Brock wasn't sure he could truly explain it to her. The answer wasn't simple. Ash probably had a number of reasons why he did what he did. It was just something too personal for them to intrude on. Ash finally made an appearance and both trainers tried to put on happy faces. Giselle asked how he was feeling, to which Ash said he was fine. Brock asked if he's ready to go fight Erika, but Ash hesitates. He's still thinking on it. He had to make sure his strategy is perfect. Giselle bit her lip to keep herself from pointing out that Ash doesn't make strategies beforehand. Ever. Ash is just going to go on a walk and think on his killer strategy. Brock asks where Pikachu is. Ash says he and the others are resting in the room. They didn't feel like going out today. Brock and Giselle winced. Ash didn't talk further, merely leaving them in silence. Walking through Celadon, Ash isn't even sure where he's going. He just needed to get away from it all. He should be heading straight to the gym, but he just couldn't. He looked down at Beedrill's Pokeball clutched in his hand. Ever since he left Porta Vista, it felt like part of him had been left behind. Beedrill's absence resonated throughout the entire team. Pikachu and Tangela were barely moving, while Psyduck was just lost in thought even more than usual. Even if Ash wanted to rally them, he didn't think they'd be able to perform. And him? He missed Beedrill. Pikachu was his partner, but Beedrill understood him like no one else. He was the first Pokemon he'd ever caught, and without him on the team, it was like something important was missing. Something Ash wasn't sure he could get back. As Ash trudged, he didn't realize he'd walked into someone. He heard a growl and looked up. A strangely dressed Cubone stood in front of him, holding a bone club in its hands. An eye patch covered one of its eyes, and it wore a tracksuit jacket. Ash even thought he saw 3 little earrings clamped to one of the horns on its skull. What did he just walk into? Cubone raised its club and growled something. Ash was just not in the mood for this. He walked over and patted Cubone on the head. He didn't know what game it was playing, but he really wasn't up for it. Run along and go find his friends to play pretend with. Cubone took exception to that. Pain filled Ash's body as Cubone whacked him in the shin with its club. In his pain, Beedrill's Pokeball dropped from his hand. Cubone was quick to spot it, and with a sneer at Ash, it snatched it up and ran. Ash's downtrodden mood was quickly changed into anger. He took off after Cubone, shouting at it to get back here! A chase through the streets took place, with Cubone being surprisingly agile. Ash finally thought he had the upper hand when he cornered Cubone in an alley. Now give him back his Pokeball! Cubone blew a raspberry at him in response. Ash moved to take the ball by force, but suddenly the ground beneath both of them collapsed. The duo ended up at the bottom of a large hole. It was official. Ash hated today. An annoying laughter filled the air. The Team Rocket trio of Jesse, James, and Meowth appeared at the top of the hole. Looks like today was a 2-for-1 special. They completed their mission and can get Pikachu all at once. Oh great, Team Rocket, Ash groaned. What were they doing here? Well, for his information, after the SSN mission went belly up, they were sent here to assist one of the top executives. They were moving up in the world. Now he better hand over Pikachu. Meowth blinked. He didn't see Pikachu. He thought today would be the day he gets his victory. Ash grunted that he didn't have his team on him, so no Pokemon for them. The trio was annoyed by that, but it was fine. They at least had a consolation prize in finally getting that irritating Cubone. Cubone waved its club angrily at the group. Ash looked confused. They were after Cubone? Why? Personally, he didn't know why anyone would want this pain in the ass. Meow said that Cubone's been beating up their agents. She just claims Celadon as her territory and doesn't like them invading. So the new boss sent them to take care of her. Ash eyed Cubone. She was a girl? That earned him a whack. The trio gloated of their victory and threw a net over the top of the hole. They vanished from view, stating they had to go inform headquarters for pickup. That left Cubone and Ash in the pit. The angry flame that had lit inside Ash vanished as he slumped against the wall. Great. Just another thing to add to the list. Ash had given up, but Cubone was looking around the pit, trying to find something. Eventually, she turned to Ash. Seeing his immobile form, she kicked him, causing him to grunt. Go away. She repeated it. Go away, please. She raised her bone to hit him, but he stopped her. What? She glared right back and gestured to their current situation. Yeah, we're in a pit. There's literally no way out. It's pointless. Cubone raised her head back and sighed in agitation. She yelled something at Ash, but he couldn't answer her. His lack of reaction finally got her to throw Beedrill's Pokeball into Ash's head. Ash held his head in pain. God damn it! He was tired of getting hit today! He picked up the Pokeball and was about to throw it back at her when he paused. He stared down at Beedrill's Pokeball in his hand. It was funny. Cubone almost reminded him of Beedrill. Maybe not with all the hitting, but the can-do attitude. It made Ash think. If Beedrill were here, he'd probably be in disbelief over what a sad sack Ash was right now. He wouldn't accept Ash sitting in a hole moping. He'd probably be thumping Ash to get out of here. Thinking about Beedrill still hurt, but Ash knew he was right. He had to get out of here. Ash brushed himself off and tried to think. He got himself and a Cubone. What could he do? Looking at Cubone, something in his brain clicked. He whipped out his Pokedex and scanned her over. Cubone stepped back of the device, but Ash assured her it was harmless. This little thing was going to help them get out of here. That perked her up. Bone Club, Thrash, and Bone Meringue. Bone Meringue! That was it! He told Cubone to use Bone Meringue on the net. Cubone didn't question the order and threw her bone. The spitting weapon hit the net, sending it into the air. It caught on something up top, letting the rest fall into the pit. Behold! A ladder! And Giselle thought Ash couldn't plan his way out of a paper bag. He was doing pretty good for himself. Cubone and Ash climbed out. Up top, Ash could see their trio was nearby, not realizing that their prisoners had escaped. They were too busy celebrating and fantasizing. Something about Cubone giving their boss a back massage? God, these guys were weird. Hey, Ash looked to Cubone. You want to show them why they don't mess with us? Cubone grinned in excitement. Ash didn't even need to give the command. The trio didn't know what hit them. Ash and Cubone walked down the street with a spring in their step. After a cathartic victory, Ash got the location of the Team Rocket base. It was easy enough with Cubone there. Ash wasn't really a crime fighter, but it was for Cubone's sake. She didn't like trash in her territory, so he was going to help her bust it up. Upon arriving there, it seems like they were already too late. The Celadon game corner was swarming with cops. Team Rocket agents were being marched out in handcuffs, and watching over it all was a strange old woman. She had a big Gengar floating behind her, grinning maliciously at the Team Rocket grunts. Well, this was a letdown, Ash mused. He was looking forward to him and Cubone busting some heads. His appearance drew the old woman's attention. Her eyes narrowed. She ordered him to get over here. Ash wasn't sure what was going on, but him and Cubone approached. Just what he was doing here. Ash heard this was a Team Rocket base, and Cubone didn't like Team Rocket, so they came to bust some heads. The old woman looked baffled at the idea. A runt like him trying to fight a criminal organization? That was insanity. It wasn't like it was the first time. Besides, if Ash couldn't beat them, how would an old crone like her do it? Old crone? The shadows of the area seemed to darken. This old crone is Agatha of the Elite Four. Who might he be? Ash Ketchum, future Pokemon Master. At the utterance of his name, he saw her brow furrow before her eyes lit up with realization and narrowed in anger. Ash Ketchum. Agatha wants him to know that she doesn't like him. This lady was nuts. Ash said it was mutual. They glared at each other for a second. Agatha's eyes trailed down to Cubone. That's an odd Pokemon with you. Ash tensed. Yeah, she's a strange one. Agatha's heard reports from Officer Jenny about an oddly dressed wild Pokemon that's been assaulting people. That's crazy. Anyways, Ash and his Cubone better get going. Bye! Ash was quick to take off before Agatha could inquire further. She was creepy. Now alone together, Ash looked to Cubone. He's sorry she didn't get to bust up the bad guys. Cubone kicked the dirt with a half-hearted shrug. That got Ash to chuckle a bit. This was where they should be parting ways, but Ash didn't want to. For the first time in days, he's laughed and smiled. He hasn't forgotten about beedrill, but the pain felt more manageable. When he was with Cubone, it felt kind of like when he was with beedrill. Wasn't the exact same, but both Pokemon had that fighting spirit that Ash reveled in. He couldn't let this moment go. You know, Ash is trying to be a Pokemon master. He might not be busting up bad guys, but he's going to be fighting plenty of strong opponents in the future. If Cubone wanted a chance to fight, maybe she could join him. Cubone was shocked at the offer. She fiddled with the bone in her hand, unsure. With a shyness Ash hadn't expected, she accepted his offer, getting Ash to grin. All right! He pulls out a fresh Pokeball and holds it to her. With a tap, she sucked inside. The ball doesn't even shake. It clicks with success. Cubone popped out, looking a bit dazed but happy at the catch. Ash leads her back to the Poke Center. He can't wait to introduce her to everyone. Brock and Giselle are still at the center when Ash returns. They're shocked by his cheerful appearance. What happened to him? Ash waves it off. Nothing much. You made a new friend though. This is Cubone. She's joining his team. Both regarded the Pokemon with curiosity and surprise. She did make for an odd sight. Cubone stared them down with crossed arms. It was like she was trying to look down on them, but it was kind of hard when you were so short. Ash would love to stay and chat, but he's got to introduce her to the rest of the team. They gotta get ready. He's got a gym battle tomorrow. Before Ash can go, Giselle stops him. She asks if he's alright. Like, really alright. He pauses. He doesn't know, but he's dealing with it. Things are different, but that's okay. Sometimes different is good. With that, Ash left to do the think. A new day, a new Ash, and another victory on the horizon. Ash had a spring in his step as he headed to the Celadon gym. Cubone had been introduced to the team last night, and it went better than expected. Tangela, of course, was ecstatic by the new friend. Pikachu was a little suspicious, especially with Cubone's attitude, but he was cool with her. Sonic was odder than usual. The other two had bounced back pretty well. Ash's new attitude, coupled with Cubone's support, had helped pull them out of the funk they were in. Sonic, though, was still lost in his own world. That was okay for now. Ash didn't plan for Sonic to battle. It was a grass gym, after all. Entering the gym, it was a giant greenhouse. Ash was assaulted by various scents that made him gag. He opened his mouth, but closed upon seeing the look Giselle was giving him. It's like she had a sixth sense when he was going to say something that annoyed her. Whatever. He just wanted to finish this battle fast. This place reeked. A girl met them at the entrance. She asked if he was here to take in some of their wonderful perfumes. What? No. Ash looked disgusted. He's here for a gym battle. The girl didn't look happy at his reaction, but led them into the gym. Erika sat on a large pillow, being catered to by various attendants. Ash got Gary vibes from this girl. She regarded them with passive interest and asked if they were here for perfume. No, Ash groaned. He's here for a gym battle. Erika sighed and stood up, straightening her clothes. She supposes it is her duty as the Celadon City gym leader after all. The two take their places on the battlefield. The rules were simple. It'll be a 3v3 with no substitutes. The gym leader will send out her Pokemon first. Erika sent out a Tangela of her own. Ash was surprised momentarily, but grinned. He knew everything about Tangela. He brought out Cubone to his side. He told her this was a gym battle, the first step before they get to fight the best of the best. She can watch and get an idea of how strong everyone is. Cubone nodded in determination. With that, he grabbed another ball in his belt. This might be risky, but he had some newfound confidence. He was Ash Ketchum. He could do anything, include handle dangerous Pokemon. Ninetales appeared in a confused state in the field. She looked around before locking eyes on Ash. He waved back with some hesitancy. Hey there, any interested in battling someone? Ninetales leapt to attack him, which caused Ash to quickly return her before she could get close. He sighed. Ugh, great. The challenger forfeits the first Pokemon. Wait, what? Erika had a judgmental look, and her attendants whispered behind her while giving him pointed looks. What was that? Ash heard Giselle call. Brock and her were likewise confused by what just happened. I'll explain later, Ash yelled back. Crap. He was now in a 2v3 situation, and he didn't have anyone that was actually good against grass types. Erika asked if he was really here for a battle. Ash ignored her and sent out his own Tangela. Now the battle began. Despite both being grass types, Ash's Tangela held a distinct advantage. They both sent vines at each other to try and bind one another, but Erika's Tangela got shredded by Cut. No matter what it tried, Tangela's blades were far too sharp for it. It resulted in a quick victory. Erika frowned but sent out a Weeping Bell next. Tangela had a harder time against Weeping Bell. He was taken off guard when he got hit by an acid attack. That kicked in his fight or flight and he went wild. He was a blur around the battlefield, confusing all who watched. Ash didn't worry. Without Tangela was moving, he could see Weeping Bell was getting dizzy. Ash ordered Tangela to use Bind. In a move reminiscent of beedrill, Tangela wrapped up Weeping Bell before throwing him into the wall. It hit the ground unconscious. Now Erika's frown deepened. Ash smirked. It seemed that his charitable lead that he gave her wasn't enough. As expected, her final Pokemon came out, a very large Vileplume. It glared at Tangela. Tangela wheezed. He'd run through 2 gym leader level Pokemon and was running on fumes. Ash told him to hold on a bit longer. He's got this! He sent vines for her to shred Vileplume with Cut, but Vileplume pulled out a trick Ash hadn't seen before. It used Petal Dance! A whirlwind of flowers surrounded it, repelling the vines. Then it sent it forward, engulfing Tangela. He cried out as he was ravaged by the tornado. Erika told Vileplume to finish it. Vileplume's head glowed as it began to charge something. Ash told Tangela to get moving, but Tangela stood still. He worried the Pokemon was too injured to move, but Ash's eyes twitched upon realization. He wasn't too injured to move. He was too focused on the pretty light Vileplume was making. That served to be his undoing as Vileplume shot a solar beam forward that eviscerated Tangela and knocked it out. Ash facepalmed. I told Cubone that usually battles don't end like that. Tangela's just weird. Cubone scratched her head in confusion. A mighty warrior in one battle and a goof in the other. Truly one of her new subordinates was strange. Ash looked at Pikachu. Alright, it's his time to bring it home. Just before Pikachu could be sent out, Psyduck appeared on the battlefield. Erika doesn't understand Ash's choices. First that unruly Ninetales and now a Psyduck as his final Pokemon? Was he mocking her? Ash doesn't know what's happening anymore. Okay, he guess he has to roll with this. Last thing he wants to do is lose and have to come back later. These perfumes were giving him a migraine. He tells Psyduck they had to focus on getting his confusion going. Psyduck nodded. He seemed surprisingly coherent considering how he's been lately. Vileplume launched an acid attack forward, but Psyduck actually managed to dodge them. He ran straight at Vileplume, which is not what Ash wanted at all. That was not a good plan. Psyduck tucked his arms in and launched forward like a missile. He connected hard into Vileplume, sending it back. He landed on his feet with a grace Ash didn't know he had. What was that? Brock called out saying that was Skull Bash. Ash flashed back to Gary. That's what he meant when he said he taught Psyduck. That jerk! He could have just said that instead of being cryptic and weird. That wasn't important now. The collision rang Psyduck's bell and his eyes glowed with psychic power. Skull Bash, an instant way to start a headache. Vileplume couldn't respond despite Erika's cries to move as Psyduck gathered it up with confusion. The battle was over as Vileplume was smashed into the earth. Ash cheered at Psyduck's victory. He gave a peace sign to them all, feeling some pride in his smarts. Erika met Ash looking disgruntled. He has won, so she presents him with the rainbow badge. Ash snatched it up with a grin. Thank you very much. He strutted back to Brock and Giselle, who just looked confused as all get out. Ash has a lot of explaining to do. Where did he get that Ninetales? And what was up with it? Remember that Pokemon Giselle hit when they got separated? That was it. Ash kind of caught it to stop it from attacking. Only now every time he brings it out, it keeps trying to attack him. Giselle's baffled. Did he not hear about how dangerous all those island Pokemon are? And he brought one back with him? In Ash's defense, he doesn't think he'd be able to get away from it upon releasing it, so he guessed he had to try and train it. Rack isn't sure this is smart, but he's happy to help Ash try and figure it out. It's not really a lesson every trainer has to learn, but dealing with a disobedient Pokemon is a good thing to know how to do. Ash is grateful for the support. It'd been a minute since he'd seen Ninetales, so he forgot how vicious it was. This was going to be rough. But for once, Ash felt a bit more hopeful about the future.